Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the high-stakes world of workers' compensation claims, and we're zeroing in on a massive decision that injured workers face: why settlements almost always beat court trials. Now, if you're navigating this system, you might be tempted to fight for every last dime in front of a judge, right? It feels like the natural thing to do. But as we're going to see, taking the insurance company to court is absolutely not the slam dunk it might appear to be.
So let's just address the elephant in the room. Could going to court cost you literally everything? Well, yeah. When you take a claim to trial, there is a very real possibility that a judge could leave you walking away with absolutely zero, nothing. While sure, there's a chance you could get more money in a courtroom, there's an equally present danger that you're going to get far less or completely lose the whole shebang. To really understand why settlements are so incredibly powerful, we first got to look at the inherent dangers of the courtroom. All right, Section 1, the risk of court trials, or the gamble of the courtroom.
The absolute crucial point to remember here is that a trial is an unknown gamble. Court trials are incredibly slow, they're entirely uncertain, and ultimately a judge makes the final call and you're bound by it. A settlement, on the other hand, allows you to bargain for a known, definite outcome. It completely eliminates the risk of a trial. You get a guaranteed, definite amount of money that you agree to right up front. It gives you absolute control over that final number and brings closure so much faster. Moving right along to Section 2, the insurance company's perspective, let's look behind the scenes of the industry. So here's a little secret. Insurance companies actually dread court. Why? Because litigating is incredibly expensive. And honestly, this fear gives injured workers a massive amount of leverage. Remember, these insurers are businesses. They stay afloat by taking in more money and paying out less. When a case goes to a formal hearing to figure out the exact degree of your permanent disability, the insurance company has to open their checkbook for a mountain of administrative costs. And we all know how much they hate doing that. They've got to pay for every doctor they depose, every single hearing they request, court reporters, transcripts, and a small army of lawyers to fight your case. All this overhead, it stacks the deck in your favor during negotiations, because they want to avoid these costs just as much as you want to avoid the risk of a trial. Let's jump to Section 3, why settling beats the courtroom and how you take control of your financial destiny. Now that we know insurers want to dodge a trial, why is striking a deal outside of court such a definitive win for you? Well, the true power of settling is that you get a financial safety net to use however you see fit, rather than just leaving your fate in the hands of a judge. Instead of weekly checks that can just abruptly stop the second you're medically cleared to go back to work, a lump sum settlement is yours to keep forever. Imagine this. If your settlement is negotiated based on, say, a projected period of lost time, and you end up recovering and going back to work early, you don't lose that money. You keep the surplus. It relieves so much financial pressure and gets you fast closure so you can just put the whole case behind you. And here's another really fascinating advantage. Sometimes, like in cases of work-related heart attacks, insurers will actually pay you a favorable settlement just to avoid officially accepting liability on their books. Insurers are absolutely terrified of setting legal precedents that might open the floodgates for similar claims. Because of that, they might offer a sort of quid pro quo, where they pay you a very significant amount of money to settle strictly on the condition that they don't have to formally accept the claim. This kind of flexibility is a completely unique advantage of settling that a courtroom trial just literally cannot offer. But as with most things, timing is everything. Section 4, timing the settlement sweet spot. When to make your move. If you demand a settlement too early, you run a huge risk of severely undervaluing your claim. Insurers absolutely love to offer quick nuisance value payouts right out of the gate. They're hoping to close the claim efficiently before you even realize the true extent of your injuries. You might get a call within a few weeks of your accident with an offer, and the adjuster is acting like they're just looking out for your best interests. Guys, this is almost always a trap. It is impossible to accurately calculate the value of your case before your injury has actually improved. They just want you to take a fast nuisance value, often under $5,000, before you even have a chance to calculate your future medical costs or hire a lawyer. Instead, you usually want to wait until you reach what's called MMI, or maximum medical improvement. Basically, this means your condition has stabilized and further treatment isn't expected to significantly improve it. Before MMI, there are just way too many unknowns. You don't know how much more medical care you're going to need, what your ultimate disability rating will be, or how much your future wage earning capacity is going to suffer. If you submit a demand before you understand all those factors, you're risking selling your case incredibly short. Now, getting to MMI takes patience. Recovery is often the absolute longest part of a workers' comp claim. To put it into perspective, if your injury involves an extremity, like a hand, foot, arm, or leg, you're usually looking at a full year from the date of the accident or your last surgery. For more complex internal injuries, like to the spine, lungs, heart, or brain, Waiting 2 full years is totally standard. And hey, if you suddenly need an additional surgery, that clock resets all over again. But here is the ultimate sweet spot. If you settle after you reach MMI, but right before a judge locks in your exact permanent disability rating, that window of uncertainty lets you negotiate a settlement up to 50% larger. Think about how the mechanics of this work. Once a judge determines your exact level of permanent disability at a hearing, the value of your case becomes completely black and white. Your negotiation room vanishes. But if you wait until it's clear you'll have a permanent disability, but act before the judge officially writes it, the insurer doesn't know their exact financial exposure. Your lawyer can use the facts to argue that the future exposure is going to be incredibly high, allowing you to secure a massive premium simply because the insurer wants to eliminate that risk. So, once you hit that sweet spot, how do you extract the maximum value? Section 5. Negotiating the best deal and pushing back for what you deserve. $10,700. That is the shockingly low average settlement for injured workers who just roll over and accept the very first offer the insurance company throws at them. Let me be clear, it is incredibly rare for an insurance company to make an acceptable first offer. That opening move, it's completely designed to test your patience and see if you'll take a quick, cheap out. $10,700 is actually only half of the average settlement amount most injured workers will eventually get. But look what happens when you actively push back and actually engage the insurance company in negotiations. Workers who do this receive an average of almost 150% more. Pushing back pays massive dividends. By simply engaging in the process and flat out refusing that lowball initial offer, the average jumps all the way up to $26,300. Also, keep in mind that the nature of your injury creates massive negotiation leverage. Claims involving multiple body parts settle for 3 times the average amount. While a standard claim averages around 20 grand, cases that involve multiple body parts, which usually happen in major incidents like car accidents or bad slip and falls, they average out to around $60,000. In fact, these multi-part injuries are responsible for about half of all claims above $1 million nationally. Now, insurance companies have professional adjusters and attorneys who negotiate these exact deals all day, every single day. They are fighting to lower your payout. Because of this, workers with legal representation secure nearly 30% more compensation on average than those who go it alone. If the insurer sees you don't have representation, they absolutely know they can persuade you to accept a lower offer. While people flying solo average around $18,000, hiring a professional who understands exactly how to extract money from the insurer pushes that average up to $23,500. Now, we have to be completely objective here. There are fundamental realities and trade-offs to consider with any settlement. It's a permanent closure where you are trading your future medical rights for a percentage of the total value today. It's basically the cost of doing business. If you calculate that you're owed $300 a week for the next 300 weeks, you aren't going to get 100% of that money up front. The insurance company will only give you a percentage, usually more than 50%, in exchange for paying it out as one single lump sum today. Furthermore, you're typically waiving your right to request future medical coverage for that injury, which means you've got to budget that lump sum carefully to handle any out-of-pocket medical expenses down the road. But ultimately, it comes down to the present value of money. A dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. A lump sum invested today is often far more valuable than small, slow, weekly payments drawn out over years and years. With the current rate of inflation, a dollar earned years from now is fundamentally worth less than a dollar you hold in your hand right now. Getting a lump sum means you can invest that money, let it grow, and take control rather than relying on an insurance company to just slowly drip feed your compensation. Look, settling isn't right for absolutely everyone, especially if you know for a fact you're going to need massive ongoing surgeries. But for the vast majority of people, finding that settlement sweet spot entirely eliminates the terrifying risk of getting nothing at a trial, and it puts the power and the money firmly back in your hands. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this one thought. When it comes to your financial future and your safety net, are you willing to roll the dice with a judge, or will you take control today?